Hello everyone, welcome back to the Addicted Book World, where my addiction's all over the internet. I'll make this a quick video, as quick as I possibly can, because I gotta be work at 4, for today. We're gonna be talking about dystopian, books, and why I personally believe that modern dystopia is not really dystopia. It is, authors putting their own spin on dystopian without actually realizing what exactly is a dystopian, because they don't live in a dystopia world. And I told my brother this, and he was like, "Yeah, that sounds a little bit like a dystopian." But I'm determined he's going to read it. Um, modern dystopia is about things like climate change and environmental things. In all honesty, and to be absolutely honest, I'm just basing this on the catch-all phrases that a lot of young authors do to classify their books as dystopian. Now, Light Lark is supposed to be a dystopian book, but when you read it, at least from my own point of view, I don't feel like it's a dystopian. I feel like it's a generic type of fantasy book, and there's no, like, government trying to put their heel to the back of your head and make you do what they want you to do. And that's the thing about it, is that people really don't want to dive into corrupt governments in the truest definition of corrupt government. They want to create a book that makes you think that people are being oppressed, but they're not. There's no monitoring, there's no controlling of what people read or see or feel or any of that type of stuff. There's no punishment for reading the wrong thing or believing the wrong thing or whatnot. So you have a book that's marketed as dystopian, but it's not dystopian. It's just, like I said, your generic type of fantasy book. In the Bone Mender, I think that's the name of it. The one I couldn't stand because it had like child slavery and drug use and all that. I had not, the feeling that I got from the book is that, yes, it is a world in which I would not want to live in. I will give the author points on that. But did it feel dystopian to me? Not really. Not really. It's felt more like a communist government than a dystopian government. Though people might say that's the same thing. And hey, you want to say the same thing? I'll give you token points for that. But I think that she really did succeed in creating this like communist government, or communist-like government and everything. So I will give her points for that. When I go and I look at the Red Queen was published years ago. Not super long ago, but years ago. And I'm not even through the first chapter. Not because it's a bad book, but because I was listening to it on my break and I never got a chance to get back to it. I will, however, listen to a little bit more of it today when I go on my break. But it feels, just from the short amount of time that I have been in that world, it feels dystopian. It feels like your classic dystopian book. It's like, yeah, this is the worst government you could possibly imagine. We'll put it on the page, and we're going to work from there. And it really is this clear line of what exactly qualifies as a dystopian and what just classifies as generic um, fantasy. You have a corrupt government. You have a well, yeah, corrupt government. You have the upper class, which are the haves, and you have the lower class, which are the have-nots. And the lower class, they comments like, we bend over because they work us. They're the Reds. They have no power. They have no ability to overcome where they're at. And they get conscripted at the age of 18. And then you have the Silvers, who are the elite. They're the people that have the power. They have magical abilities and all this time. This is a dystopian fantasy book, which I think, from what I have listened to, the author does a great job in depicting a world that you do not want to live in. And that is great. I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to this book all the way to the end, and then I'm going to give my review of it, and I probably will go ahead and get the second audiobook to that one. One of the big things you cannot do in a dystopian is do it the same way you do in romantasy. Because there is nothing romantic about a dystopian world. You cannot possibly romanticize a fantasy world that is dystopian in nature. You cannot. I'm sorry, you cannot do that. That does not work that way. So you have that sense of like hopelessness and fear, and of course the realization that there's no way that I'm going to be able to get out of my situation. I know where I'm going when I'm 18, and that's just how it is. And that is a very bleak kind of mindset, at least in my own point of view. So, are we living in an era where dystopia books are making a huge comeback? Well, it happened in the 2010s, especially during the time of Trump's first administration. We had a lot of people that were really into dystopian books. I personally was not. But if you want a pure example of a dystopian world, try the Middle Ages. Everybody was subjugated. It was one giant horror fest after another. Anyway, so I am really considering writing a dystopian book. Now, of course, I don't know when I'm publishing this book. I'm just going to take my time with it. I don't even have a title for it. I don't even have characters' names for it. But I will be doing that. Because I want to write a book that makes people think. I want them to feel like that this is a world that you do not want to live in. Now, I do have some things down that I want to talk about. First and foremost, this is a dystopian fantasy book. 2, this is not just a country that decides to treat people like garbage. This is a worldwide dystopian society. So every country does it. So that's another thing. 2, the government controls, no matter where you go, controls everything that you do. From what you eat to when you can have children. And if you're gay, they have ways to ensure that you do exactly what they want you to do. Because you can't have a dystopian world without, so a group of people can think for themselves and do what they want to do. You cannot have a dystopian world if you've got people that are, But what they do to increase the birth rate, they have this drug that they inject in people. And what it has done to some of them, not all of them, but some of them, because you got to have a faction that's different from everyone else. You have this ability that has manifested, and because it's a fantasy world, we're going to call it magic. And they live in a underground society that they formed that is protected by enchantments and charms and stuff like that. And this is where our protagonist lives in. She was considered to be a stillborn, but then somebody takes her down to this underground world where they are able to revive her, discovers that she's got magic, and she becomes the adopted daughter of the leader of this group. But going to the above ground, like I said, every part of your life is controlled by the government. And I have not yet figured out a name for this government. I have not, but I will be working on that. Currently, right now, I'm currently proofreading my second Book Nook mystery book, but I'm definitely going to write down notes of like the characters and the magic system and the dystopian world and everything like that. And there is no body from other countries coming in and saving them from themselves. It has to be this group of people that have the ability to bring people out of that kind of mind control. But this is your classic dystopian with a little magical twist to it. And of course you're going to have dragons. Got to have dragons. Can't have a fantasy book without dragons. And they also bring chaos to this ordered world that these people are living in. They're there to mainly shatter people's illusion of how perfect their world actually is. But those actually are not going to appear right away. They're going to appear later on in the book. Because I don't want them to suddenly appear. I just want them to be kind of appears at some point. I do not know how thick the book is going to be, but I definitely will say this: it will not be thicker than 1984. I do not want people to get a giganto thick volume and go, I need to get this on Kindle, which y'all will probably get on Kindle anyways. But dystopian books have a certain kind of feel to them. And you cannot have your characters chasing fads and all that type of stuff, because you're supposed to create a world where everybody is subjugated, there's no hope, there's no nothing. But when you add fantasy into the mix, it becomes much different. But still, at the core of it, it's still dystopian. It's in everything. And there is not going to be any smut, any spice in it, because it is a dystopian world and everybody's more concentrated on survival and what new stuff the government is going to give them than about fucking. But I will say this about what they do is they have a building just for reproduction. And that is what the building is for. The building is used primarily for reproduction. Okay, and another thing I want to add to it is that there is a penalty if you do not give birth to a healthy child. And I will be putting that in the book. It is not going to be a young adult dystopian book, because there is going to be violence in this book and everything. But I'm going to take my time with it because I want to write as good of a book as I possibly can make it. And hopefully you guys will read it and think, damn, these people have it bad. And that's the point. You're supposed to root for the people that are trying to get people away from it. And it's not just what used to be the United States, it is all over the world that you have this event that happens with these people. And their goal, of course, is to not create, the group that fights this dystopia, their goal is not to create a perfect utopia. It is to survive the dystopia that they are find themselves in, and hopefully become better for it, and hopefully learn and not become another dystopia. But anyways, I am going to let you guys go, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, by the way, I do have the Kindle Colorsoft 1 month video I'm going to upload next, and I will see you next time. Bye.